employment, wages, inequalities, social benefits, working conditions. All of these areas are going backwards.
If you're working 40 hours a week, you should be making enough money to get by.
And then when you look at things, why things are the way they are, it's the system to blame.
Politicians run America's public with fear.
The war on terror.
We are in the midst in a huge counter-revolution.
Por fin la sociedad está despertando.
We're the ones who see the change that needs to be made.
Queremos un futuro mejor, hay que trabajar.
Enough is enough.
This is not a revolution, it's a renaissance.
A change in the system only comes through a revolution.
No one trusts any politician. Where do we go from here?
Get the job done of making this country better.
We know that the people who are in positions of power ought to be figuring out how to restore promise.
People are concerned with changing their own lives right now.
I'm looking for this to be a wake-up call for America.
Every revolution is impossible until it happens, and then it was always inevitable.
Los límites entre la realidad y la imaginación se hacen más difusos en Disney. Allí la gente viaja a su infancia o permanece en ella, en el sitio donde se puede volar, caer por un túnel sin fondo, ser otros, vivir sin despertar. No es casualidad que aquí descanse el mayor de los sueños, el intento del hombre por crear una vida. Dioses por unas horas, los hombres crean a los robots a su imagen y semejanza. La maraña de cables termina en una mirada luminosa en la que buscamos el alma, aunque sabemos que no está. ¿Sabemos que no está? Allí, acá, en la tierra de nunca jamás, en el lugar de los sueños siempre, se enciende ASIMO.
Hey, guys. You would not believe what's going on outside right now. I think I got the whole neighborhood on my lawn. Oh, here it comes. All right, everyone, I want you to say hello to ASIMO. No, that was a good idea. Hey, everyone, please help me welcome the newest addition to our family, ASIMO.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, so ASIMO. Now, do we have any mail out there?
No.
No.
But your neighbor gave this to me.
Oh, thank you. Let's have a look at that. ASIMO. A straight line or even on a curve there.
ASIMO es un acrónimo. Significa Advanced Step in Innovative Mobility. ASIMO, por oposición, muestra lo maravilloso del ser humano. Tardaron años en lograr que un robot subiera una escalera o imitara movimientos humanos. ASIMO lo hace. Tiene la altura de un niño, lo que lo presenta amigable e inofensivo. Parece un pequeño astronauta de bordes redondeados, como los de un juguete. Usamos la ciencia para llegar a la religión, al final del túnel donde otra vez empiezan las preguntas. Miren a los ojos a un robot. Díganme qué buscan. Buscamos crear iguales que nos salven de nosotros mismos. Nadie sueña con ser robot en su reencarnación. A Philip Dick le sucedió. Dick escribió un libro de nombre sugestivo. ¿Sueñan los androides con ovejas eléctricas? Sobre ese libro, Ridley Scott basó Blade Runner. Dick murió en el 82 y volvió a nacer en un suburbio de Dallas. El dios que lo encendió se llama David Hanson.
These kinds of robots would have been fantasy 200 years ago, or even 50 years ago. Now we've got the technology to make this possible. The robot experiences everything as raw sensory input and algorithms. And it may be that the human brain works in the same way with algorithms that we don't know completely yet. So there's a field called computational neuroscience that tries to build mathematical models of human experience that can be used as algorithms.
La planta baja de Creekfield Drive 101 es una fábrica casera de robots. David Hanson tiene un robot que se llama como su hijo, Sino. Hanson fue premiado por la NASA y reconocido como genio por la revista Wired. Desarrolla hardware de inteligencia artificial, gestos que permiten a los robots dudar, emocionarse, mirar con atención, temer o despertar empatía.
A robot can have abstract thought, but it's limited compared to a human's abstract thought. In some ways, robots can do abstract thought beyond humans, like pure math, but if it's going to try to understand the gist of a joke, that's very hard for robots to do. But software for understanding wit and humor and jokes has come along a long way in the last 5 years. The most difficult expression to achieve in robots is a smile. Like a warm smile that feels genuine, because there are so many parts of the face that have to move into just the right position. The eyes have to move into the right position, the corners of the eyes, all the parts of the eyelids. The mouth has to move into the right position, the skin around the mouth, the lips around the teeth. And it is also one of the most important expressions.
One of the very first questions that Honda asked itself was, what would a robot look like that was going to help people? And the engineers decided that that robot would have to be able to function in a world that's made for us with doors and chairs and that are made for us to move freely in. So that led to the decision that the robot should therefore resemble a human form so that it could also move freely and efficiently in those spaces. And also it was to help make people more comfortable, that if the robot appeared humanoid in form, that it would be more easily accepted by people. It's interesting because, say for example, you put a pen on a table and I pick the pen up and I put it back in my pocket, and I can do that while I'm talking to you, and it doesn't even really register to me. I don't look at the pen, recognize it as a pen, pick it up, put it in my pocket. But if we were to try to create a robot to do that exact same thing, it would be incredibly difficult and take a lot of time and a lot of computing power, and it would probably take years. So I've never lost sight of the fact that with every step that ASIMO takes, every time it walks up the stairs, every time it runs, that's a machine that's doing incredible things. And I think it also highlights just how special human beings are.
Hey, is ASIMO there?
Yeah, right there, son. See it?
Hello. Cool. ASIMO, we'll be home in 5 minutes.
Oh.
Awesome. I told everyone in school that they could come over to meet me. Well, I invited everyone in the neighborhood.
The great thing about the humanoid robotics field is that it is so incredibly broad and can encompass all of these things, where you have some researchers who are researching, human emotion and compassion, and can that be replicated, and can a robot be created that is human in its appearance. So I guess in that sense I could say I would, what researchers can do, who knows, anything is possible. I just know in Honda's case, our focus is really on a robot that can be a helper to people and a benefit to society.
Character Engine is artificial intelligence that simulates human cognition for face-to-face interaction with people. So the robot has emotions, very rudimentary emotions compared to people's emotions, but it has emotions, and it tries to build a model of what you might be thinking and feeling, and sort of imagine what you're feeling. Eyes are important as input devices and also as output devices. So usually when you put eyes on a robot, what you're doing is putting cameras, and you're acquiring data and then processing that data so the robot can see its world. The eyes are so critical for human communication. If we can use that language in robots so they can communicate with people in this way, then we intuitively understand what the robot is going through and what they're trying to accomplish. So in the end, I believe that machine running algorithms, controlling a robot, will experience things just as much as we do. It will feel and have consciousness in the same way that people do, or a way that is very close and analogous. And at that point, we'll have to start thinking about robot rights. That'll change history.
En el estado donde las personas tienen mucho de robots, se trata de que los robots tengan algo de las personas. Texas es una gota de los Estados Unidos en estado puro. Barbecue, rodeos, botas en Dallas, la ciudad donde asesinaron a Kennedy y donde en los 80 JR sonreía, malicioso. Texas es la cuna de la familia Bush y es también el estado que concentra el estudio de la robótica en el norte del mundo. Disney es la escenografía de Los Ángeles o Florida y Disaster City es la escenografía de Texas. Un predio de 52 hectáreas donde se reproducen todos los desastres posibles. Trenes chocados, árboles caídos, escombros, autos volcados, ingenieros y rescatistas de todo el mundo que llegan a Disaster City como se llega a la Meca.
Very clear signal.
Robin Murphy dirige el CRASAR, Centro de Robots para Búsqueda y Rescate. Actuaron en el 11S y en Katrina. Su última misión sucedió en Japón, luego del tsunami de 2011.
Whenever you see a disaster, you like on CNN, you see people in hard hats, the responders, you see canines, and you see robots. And if you don't see some ground robots and some aerial robots, and if there's water, you're going, well, where are the robots? What these are tools, really smart tools to do things that they can't do, that the dogs can't do, that the people can't do, to go places they can't go or under conditions that they can't go, and to make the invisible visible. So now the intelligence is a joint cognitive system. The robot and the person have to be smart together. That's what we're looking at doing, making this natural for a human, a responder, to be able to easily interact, either being next to the robot or being 3,000 miles away.
Time is the wall. Good.
Sam Newsom ayudó en Japón con sus robots subacuáticos. Es especialista en rescates submarinos.
I traveled with CRASAR, the Center for Robotic Assisted Search and Recovery, about 5 weeks after the tsunami, and we looked for victims and cleared ports and harbors and examined infrastructure in 2 cities, Minami Sanriku, which was the city directly opposite 130 kilometers from the epicenter, and then Rikuzen Takata, which was just completely flattened. But the zones were more affected by all of the buildings being blown upwards of 5 kilometers from the sea and then dragged back out to the sea via the harbors.
Todos los robots tienen nombres como las mascotas, pero los de Newsom no. No quiere encariñarse porque a veces los pierde en los rescates.
It was tough. I've seen disasters, not as a first responder, but to find like 45 cell phones and know that people keep their cell phones on them, finding children's backpacks with the books and they're eating lunches in them, knowing that this happened 2.5 hours after lunch, seeing cars on top of 3-story buildings 3 kilometers from the ocean, entire towns that were just foundations with carpeting and linoleum left on them. It was pretty tough and still impacts me, as you might be able to tell right now today.
In the short term, you can just have transport robots, medic robots, and these robots usually won't encounter ambiguous situations. But you do have, predator vehicles like the, unmanned aerial vehicles that have missiles that they can launch now. We're already enabling our robots with firepower that could take human life and sometimes do take human life. Then you have to start thinking about how can you most judiciously use those forces for the best possible outcome. Violence begets violence. You have the cycle of violence. It's a vicious circle.
Un predator puede detectar una huella en el suelo desde 1,5 kilómetros de altura y rastrear de dónde proviene. Tiene el tamaño de un Cessna o un biplano de la Segunda Guerra Mundial. El piloto no tiene que ir en él. Puede volarlo a control remoto desde 10.000 kilómetros de distancia, desde Nevada a Afganistán. El Predator puede mantenerse en vuelo 24 horas seguidas, leer la patente de un automóvil y con un detector de calor saber si alguien disparó un arma en los últimos 30 minutos. Hay 45 naciones que producen, compran y usan robots militares. Brasil, Gran Bretaña, Israel, Francia, Rusia, China y Pakistán, entre otras.
War is both never changing and ever changing. So on the never changing side of war, war at its essence, whether it was between the very first cavemen fighting over hunting grounds, using the technology of rocks and sticks, to today where we're fighting over everything from oil fields to political ideology using technology like the Predator drone. At its essence, war is still about humans. So that's the way that it's never changing. The part that is changing in the 21st century is who's doing the fighting. And increasingly, it's technology itself, it's robotics. The US military, for example, has over 7,000 robots in the air and 12,000 on the ground.
Peter Singer es uno de los mayores especialistas mundiales en guerras y armas del siglo XXI. Es un experto en máquinas que matan, espían, vigilan, atacan o protegen. Hay robots del tamaño de un insecto dedicados a espiar.
A couple years ago, the Film Institute created a list of the top 100 movie heroes and movie villains of all time. That is, out of every single movie ever made, which characters in them represented, in the words of the judges panel, humanity at its best, and which characters out of every single movie ever made represented humanity at its worst. And there was only one character out of every single movie character ever in history that was on both the top 100 hero and the top 100 villain list. The Terminator, a robot killing machine. And I think it's interesting because it shows not only the duality of technology, that is, technology can be used for both good and for bad, but also shows the duality of the people behind the technology. That is, the thing that distinguishes humans from every other species out there is our creativity. We created works of art and literature to express our love for one another, to express our sense of beauty. No other species has done that. And now we are creating this incredible new technology. We may be even creating an entirely new species. But if we're being honest about it, just like when we picked up the very first rock to today when we're creating an incredible technology of a MQ-1 Predator drone, the reason that we're doing it is not just our love of science, our love of beauty, it's also the fact that we can't get past that age-old human need to figure out how to kill one another better.
there's definitely enough detail to grab a lot of these gestures. So like pointing.
That would be great. Now, can I point toward? But you know, so
yeah. So pointing
so your
forward.
thing is like go that way to the web interface.
Yeah.
So you know, so
these are the gestures like a large and a small and a stop, for example.
Yeah, so they can do quite a bit. So this probably.
Yeah, and you can see even in a closed fist, you can see the outlines of the fingers.
Fingers,
Let me see if I can pan around it and see. This is a 3D point cloud, and you can actually see from around.
So if I'm the victim and I'm trapped like this, I can
as long as
I
you can
get
away.
a little bit up there to try to do, we're okay. And I probably don't have to do a lot of motion. In fact, I can put there and there. So that could be very powerful. And of course, that would work great for an elderly or you know, a bedridden person as well. Then we'll start looking at putting this underneath Survivor Buddy's base and see how that really works in the postures. We'll start doing some experiments next semester with more of an integrated system.
Robin dicta clases en Texas A&M University. Allí desarrolla proyectos para robots amigos del sobreviviente. Robots que entretienen y tranquilizan a la víctima de un rescate mientras este se produce.
When we started working with medical doctors, we began playing the victim. And so again, we were focused, you know, very traditional focus, how the doctor would interact with the robot to control it and look at, you know, and so look at somebody's foot and their leg and their face and their hands and have them, you know, how do you feel and all that. But you know, that robot's probably gonna be with them for 10 hours, 4 to 10 hours. That takes to extract a person now when they're found. Well, think how that goes. If you've got somebody, they're stressed, they're already injured, they're that, now they're getting angry, they're scared, they're this, and they're gonna do the opposite of what we ask them. So it seems like a small thing, but it could be the difference in somebody's life. And it could be a difference in how traumatized they are.
So this is Survivor Buddy. It's capable of moving in 4 degrees of freedom, and it can do motions like saying no. Can do things like being a little bit confused with its head. Things like saying yes.
Hello, I'm Survivor Buddy.
Okay, so you can kind of see that we typed it in here, and then it'll generate it over here in voice form, and then it kind of does the exact, so.
It's nice to meet you.
We've got a robot that we call Survivor Buddy. It's a robot that mounts on a robot. So the idea is that once you're found, you know, the doctors are going to be driving and this and that, but you need something that's not rude, something that makes eye contact with you, something that is submissive, that shows that people are paying attention. And also, you need someone to talk to, something to keep you busy. Well, one thing to do is just do two-way audio and let people out, but people get bored. Why can't we play music? Why can't you select your music? Why can't you watch TV? Why can't you do that? So initially with funding from Microsoft and then later from the National Science Foundation, we developed Survivor Buddy to be your buddy while the rest of the robot, the civil engineers are using, the doctors and that, but one that lets you control it and works for you and lets you video conference and it's just your multimedia aspect on the world. And we can also do little sneaky things like if your heart rate is going up, we know if we play certain types of music, you'll sink in and go down. And we know little things. So that's part of what we're doing with it, but it's going to be there for you. At 9/11, the ground robots were called in to try to go to places that people couldn't go. Everything was still on fire. You knew that if there were going to be any survivors, they were going to be in the stairwells or the basement. The void spaces were so incredibly small, so we were using our very smallest robots that they made at the time, trying to penetrate deep, deep in, 60, 100 feet into the rubble to see if there was some way to get in there. For the first 2 weeks, that's what we were using the robots for. Then, after that, there was clearly no chance of survivors.
Just like the computer originally started out as being a military-only technology, and then soon we're all using the internet for everything from downloading music to buying stock in companies. The same thing is happening with robotics. In many ways, I think the robot today is where the computer was around 1980.
We live in thrilling times. This is the greatest renaissance in the planet's history. We have more tools for creativity in science and engineering and art than we've ever had. And the pace of innovation outstrips any other phase in history.
David, who I interviewed for my book, he's an optimist, and that parallel of the Renaissance is maybe a great way of putting it. But look, I'm a social scientist, and so I remember that the Renaissance not only saw, flourishing of scientific discovery and economy taking off, but it also saw big meta changes in everything from the rise and then the fall of city-states to we saw, things like the printing press spread literacy, knowledge, create modern concepts of citizenship and democracy. But it also led to things like the Reformation, which if you are a Protestant or a Catholic, you think is either a good or a bad thing. But it also, the Reformation led to the 30 Years' War that at the Renaissance ends with the 30 Years' War that leaves a third of Europe dead.
The very field of robotics, the term robot, both came from science fiction writers. I think we know how scary they can be because of Terminator and like HAL from 2001. So robots that go crazy, right, and start killing people is a staple of science fiction. Some scientists say, well, we don't have anything to worry about. Other scientists say that this is going to be absolutely disastrous for the future. And still, other scientists say we need to make sure that that it turns towards the positive side. And so how can we start building computational models of ethics and compassion and friendship so that we have those algorithms in the robots?
My toys were a combination of the model jet fighter that my uncle had flown in Vietnam and Star Wars things, and they were flying against each other. And I think all of us have that essence that we grew up. We grew up in a world shaped by both science fiction and the politics and wars that have surrounded us. The interesting thing to me, and it's something that I wrestled with in my book, is the strange question of why it is that science fiction turns out to be a better predictor of the future than our governments and our media and our so-called experts do. Why is it the dreamers get it right and the so-called experts tend to get it wrong? It's fascinating because, first, several of them actually directly advise the military. That's something we don't talk about a lot, but they work with the military too. And then the final part of this that matters is just the very nature of science fiction itself. We've grown up in a world of Terminator movies and Matrix movies and robo-apocalypse novels. And so if we are actually allowing the machines to take over, well, gosh, we really didn't listen to our own fiction.
Los robots pueden calcular matemática avanzada, pero les cuesta entender los chistes. Buscamos en ellos, indefectiblemente, el alma. Deseamos que haya algo ahí adentro, atrás de los ojos, cerca del corazón. Somos dioses que, en el fondo, tememos a nuestras criaturas. Nuestros abuelos se enamoraban de Rita Hayworth y nuestros hijos podrán desvelarse por un holograma.
Now, how much do you weigh?
I weigh 119 pounds.
Yeah, you know, I wonder what all that is in metric. Let me see, you're 4'3", right?
I'm 130 centimeters tall and weigh 54 kilograms.
Okay, now how fast can you walk?
I can walk about 2 miles per hour.
I assume you know what that is in metric as well, right?
That would be about 3 kilometers per hour.
Good job, ASIMO.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
In April of this year, we took ASIMO to St. Louis to a competition where students of all ages create robots to perform tasks. It's called the First Robotics National Championship, and it's thousands of students who all really understood what it took to create ASIMO and to do the things that it does. And we met a young man there who is going to study this year, actually now, at the University of Texas. And he told us that when he was a young boy, he went and saw ASIMO being demonstrated at a university on a college tour that we had done. And he said it was that experience of seeing ASIMO and then being exposed to this robotics competition that really made him realize that what he wanted to do and that he had a future in studying these kinds of things. And now he's at a great university learning about humanoid robotics. And when we all heard that, it blew us away. Absolutely was overwhelming and humbling to know that there was a little boy out there in the audience who was inspired by what he saw.
What's real in Zeno is that he realizes that fiction of an android that you can have in your home. So what the dream is for Zeno is that he goes from being just a kind of an interesting mechanical specimen to being really alive. That he has that awakening of consciousness and creativity, of free will, and becomes a friend, a real friend. And I believe that this is the future of humanoid robots. It makes us ask the questions in a much more profound way. Who are we? Where are we going? Where have we come from? You know, what is this thin veil of illusion that that we have with this moment in history, and what does it mean to be human? Can a robot be human?
The bigger issue to me is the way this technology is changing our world at an incredible pace, at an exponential pace. Put it this way, the entire US Army's computing power in 1960, that is the Army that my father served in, is now matched by one of those little greeting cards that people give each other for holidays that opens up and plays a little song. That one greeting card has more computing power than the entire US Army did in 1960. So this incredible amount of change that's happening, and yet our human institutions, our laws, our ethics, our politics really aren't keeping up with it.
Any of these things could result from this creativity, from this phase of innovation. And eventually, it's like a game of, Russian roulette, right? Where the chamber in the revolver has one bullet. With enough time, that bullet's going to be fired. And we need to become smarter. We need to work on wise machines, super intelligent machines with deep compassion and deep wisdom can solve these problems in ways that humans can't alone. So before they become as smart as a human, now is the time for us to start thinking about how to put these foundations in for the character of the robot. They need to be good.
Having been exposed to ASIMO and the people that create it and seeing the developments that are going on and just the amazing things that are being done, I think it's hard not to feel also very hopeful and very optimistic, knowing that these kinds of advancements are coming and have come. So worried, sure, but also very, very hopeful.
Artificial intelligence is so fascinating. It's a very rigorous, very difficult course of study. And so all of these things were so fascinating in the robots. So I fell in love with it and I never looked back.
It's rewarding to serve the communities, helping that one person who's watching and hoping that we're going to find something that's going to bring some closure to them.
The most important part of science fiction isn't the technology, it's actually the way it shapes our visions of the ethics.
I would love to see one of my androids make a decision about what they want to create. As a kind of a parent to these robots, I just feel my heart warm in anticipation of that moment.
With every step that ASIMO takes, every time it walks up the stairs, every time it runs, that's a machine that's doing incredible things. And it also highlights just how special human beings are.
Los robots no tienen calor en las manos, pero no es imposible que alguna vez lo tengan. Tal vez podamos sentirnos menos solos. Jugamos a ser dioses en un Disney galáctico. Debe ser tierno vernos desde afuera.
Everyone here, they're going to follow you. Oh, okay, ready? And hit it! Okay, guys, let's follow this robot here. Yeah. Hey, there we go. What do you guys think? Not bad for your first dance lesson from a robot. We'll see you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.